Good Fortune sort of feels like this movie that is a true return to what like the early 2000s was when it came to comedies. I remember seeing something on a podcast not too long ago. No, it wasn't a podcast. It was what Vince Vaughn said during his Hot Ones interview when he was talking about how they don't really take chances on R-rated comedies anymore. And I get where he was coming from, but I think the root of that also is just they just don't make comedies that are this kind of unique out there. Now, what is Good Fortune? Good Fortune is essentially just the story about an angel who's in who's like a low man on the totem pole of the hierarchy of angels and what he does as far as his day-to-day saving of people in a sense. And what he wants is to be a better angel. He wants to be one of those angels that do more with his life, and be bigger than what he is. Because essentially, all he really is he's the texting while driving angel, and all that means is that he brings people to their senses when they're texting while driving to avoid them getting into accidents. So he does that all day and he wants more in his life, so he wants to try to save somebody. So he meets a guy down his luck and he's like, I could bring this person to understand his true potential. And then this wacky thing happens where the guy he's working for fires him, so he gives him the chance to switch identities, you could say. Sort of like it's like a big, it's like a 13 going on 30. It's a very common trope that's sometimes used in comedies because it's very easy to just do this and just watch the comedy happen. And sometimes it hits and sometimes it misses. I think this was a hit just because it is more than just the basis of that. It's also the idea of the selfishness of that as well. Because what it doesn't do sometimes in comedies like this, there isn't a real dive into who the people are you're actually switching these identities. One person being super rich and the other guy being extremely down at his luck. And when you have that dynamic and then you switch those two people, the guy who's rich then becomes the dude who's like living out of his car, and the dude living out of his car becomes this dude with unlimited amounts of potential and money and resources. And just, would he do the right thing and go back if that meant he learned something about what his life was before the switch? And he doesn't. And it's all these antics that kind of stop them from switching, so they learn more about each other's lives. But it's not presented in this way like, oh, oops, something bad happens. No, it's literally just the misfortune, in a way, of him just being selfish and saying, no, I don't want to swap back. My life sucks. And the angel being like, well, I messed up. I can't change you back. He has to realize, his life, his real life is better than this. And the guy just doesn't, and it's just everybody plays up their roles so perfectly. Keanu Reeves is great. Seth Rogen is great. I'm be honest, I'm not a big fan of Aziz Ansari, like, in general. I know there's a lot of people who love his comedy. He became huge as a stand-up. People love him. I was never a big fan of him. I don't get it, his shtick. I know he has a certain niche to it that most people get. He's kind of for his generation of the people watching his stand-up and the material he was pushing out for. Doesn't really stuff that relates to me, I guess. Or maybe he's just the way he presents it, I was never really a big fan of. But him in movies, I tend to enjoy. And this, I think he played very well because I think he plays the part up of the guy down on his luck who goes from, like, rags to riches overnight and basically has to be the one to learn the lesson. He shows off selfishness very well, and that could just be how his general personality is. But he also shows off how he's down and it's lucky. You do feel bad for him. So they've created the characters perfectly. Keanu Reeves is a great angel who's just like confused about the world and just trying to understand humanity. And he loses his wings and starts smoking and being a dishwasher for a Mexican restaurant. It's the type of comedy tropes that are just sometimes used in little bits and pieces throughout different movies, and they just put them all together. Who wrote this? I gotta see who wrote this exactly. This was written, directed, and produced by Aziz Ansari. Okay, that's pretty dope. The idea that he had this idea and then wrote it and directed it, okay, that's good on you, Aziz. I definitely have to give you credit for that because I did not know you directed this, nor did I know you were also one of the producers on this. I thought Seth Rogen had way more of a role to play than just being the rich guy on the side, but he apparently is like very deep into this film, and it sucked. What sucks a lot is that this didn't do well money wise, and I know there are some people who critique the idea of reviewers or people who like talking about movies. They use the idea of the budget compared to the overall box office run. They use that to make a point of whether or not a film is successful, and they don't think that that should be part of the conversation, but honestly, it has to be. Unfortunately, we live in an era where the money talks, and if the movie makes money, it doesn't matter how good or bad it is. You know, look at the friggin' Fast and the Furious. I don't care if I piss anybody off. Those movies make millions upon millions of dollars. They don't make any sense after a certain point. There are people out there that thrive off of it. More power to you if you love the Fast and the Furious series. I'm not a fan. I get they make millions, and they're going to keep making them for as long as Vin Diesel can still stand up on his 2 feet. But that's where the money goes. The money goes into these things that actually can create a return. Good Fortune didn't create a return. What it did create was really good reviews. People who have seen this film usually say something positive about it. And I'm one of those people who have a positive outlook on it because I really was going into this not knowing what to expect. And when you go into it open-minded, you get shocked by how well the story is told for what the story is. You know, I'm not saying that it's unique. What I'm saying is that it takes a unique twist on a story that's kind of already been done a few times before. You know, I've said this before on so many different entries. We only have so many stories that we can tell. And the way that you can make something worth watching or worth reading or worth listening to, you have to make it as unique as possible, and you have to give it something that makes it stand out, even though it's rooted in something that's already been established. The trope of people changing lives and then finding a reason to go back to their previous life is something that's been done a million times over. This is just another one of those good stories that falls in line with being part of the conversation, that it deserves recognition for being a good version of that story. The twist, I think you could say it has, is the point of showing not only the two characters who are the essential focus of the change, but also the root of their change is also very much a huge focus of the story. Keanu Reeves' Angel plays a big part in just about everything, and he's kind of more the main character than Aziz Ansari is. Aziz Ansari, his character is essentially the focus. It's really all about him. But really, it's kind of more so about the angel as well, because the angel wants to be more. He doesn't want to just be a texting and driving angel. He wants to be an angel that has purpose or more purpose. And he goes to his angel manager, and his angel manager's like, that's just not who you are. So he tries to prove him wrong, and it backfires on him, and that's why he gets stuck in this predicament. And they're like, well, you did this. You're no longer an angel, so now he's also learning to be sort of a human while trying to navigate these other two humans who are sort of fighting to get their lives switched back. It's just really cool how that little bit added into it just makes it sort of not 100% exactly the same as all the others. Because normally when you see a story like this, you see the change. Whoever the two people switching are, they change. Whatever makes them change isn't usually a part of the story to begin with. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's very few movies that I can even think of right off the top of my head that would cause that switch to happen. So, like, the first film that pops in my head is Trading Places, where they take the homeless character of Eddie Murphy and they make him this big-time stockbroker, and they push out Dan Aykroyd's character and make him a bum. The people behind that are essentially the two brothers who own that stock market firm that Dan Aykroyd works for. They're not a focal point of the story, but you do sort of see them as being the heels of the story, and then Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy being the protagonists coming together to then fight the antagonists and kind of get their victory that way. See, that's another example that's sort of in the same realm as this, where you see where the root of the cause of the life switching is. And you see how I can go back that far. That's like a 30 or 40-year-old movie. And I can go back that far and show you that this is not a unique framework of a story. But how you're able to take that frame and build a foundation on top of it to make it something different, this film really does well. And it really sucks that it didn't do more successfully in theaters, but I do know that it sits on really, really good reviews. And I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy that most people who have seen this do have relatively positive things to say about it. So I just wanted to put my voice out there as well because it's just feels to me, and I said this at the beginning, it feels to me like a true return to those sort of R-rated comedies from the early 2000s. It feels like this really good way to look towards the future of what could be possible if you gave films like this more of a chance. And it sucks because all of the money that probably went into it is just the cost of what it takes to make a film of that caliber these days. And then maybe 30,000, not 30,000, 30 million actually. Maybe 30 million back would be a little bit easier if it was, say, worth 10 million to make. But it's not. It's worth 30 million to make, and they barely made that back. So it's considered a failure money-wise, which doesn't look good on paper and doesn't push people to say, hey, we'll try again with something else. But hopefully Aziz can... still kind of shocked that Aziz Ansari wrote the thing and directed it. So hopefully he can keep doing that, because I think this actually shows better chops for Aziz in a way. Like, I didn't like his comedy, but if he writes like this, I'll watch his movies. I'll go see the next Aziz Ansari movie. If he keeps making comedies like this, I absolutely will. I just wish that more people liked it. And like I said, it seems that the majority of the feedback online is people liking it, but I just don't feel like I saw enough for it. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I saw more for this that really gave me the push to, like, feel like there needed to be more voices out there. It feel like it kind of just came and left, and that sucks, because you think with a guy like Keanu Reeves in it, people would have been flocking to the theaters just to see him in something different, you know? He can only do so many things that are like John Wick. Go to his comedies. Go to his other films. You know, let him show that he has the chops to do more things besides that, because he does great in this film, and he's a really charming piece of the puzzle of that film. It's just really good. It's a really good movie. You know, Good Fortune is just something that's, I feel like, got left behind last year, and I feel like it deserves a little bit more. You know what I mean?